I want Hilary Swank in the next Terminator movie so bad.
There is nothing in this world that you give me to do to hug a robot.
It's because it's so incredible and intricate that it's impossible not to notice.
Music's the core of this movie.
I was born again to watch this movie.
You'll find redeeming things and you'll be thinking about it for a long time afterwards.
There was no bone saw.
Just John hamming it up over here.
2.5 out of 3 of us recommend it.
Everybody loves talking about movies. Let's talk about movies.
Welcome, podcast fans, to the Pause, Rewind, Play podcast. This is Casey. Josh, how's it going?
It's me.
And Vince.
I didn't prepare anything to say this week when you say my name.
Neither did I. That's why I said it's me.
It's okay. I always just said "heyo" by default to avoid having to say anything
I just
else.
don't think I can beat my Statham impression from last week.
Oh man!
But anything could beat my rock impression from last week, though. So I probably should have done something.
Except paper and scissors.
I was going to say, he literally did an impression of a rock. It was just silence.
No, paper could beat it, just not scissors.
Yeah, no, it's been a good week of film watching, movie watching in my department of the world. I watched more Rick and Morty with my wife. I did decide to venture out of my normal comfort zone and try a few pilot episodes of some movies that I've been wanting to watch. One of which was Weeds. Terrible. Just awful. I don't know. It's an older series, but it has this lady who's a drug dealer, and I didn't.
No, I remember people, when it came out, people were all about that show. Like,
Yeah.
I think my sister got, like, super into it.
Well, that's what I've heard is, like, either you're way into it or you're just like, ugh, can't waste my time doing this. There's, like, no middle
Because
ground,
it's
really.
bad, or because it's just...
I just didn't connect, really.
Does it feel dated? Because that's an older show.
Maybe it's because it feels a little dated, but... Yeah, well, I think because, like, I'm thinking now, like, okay, like, now people are going to get to know me a little bit better. I don't think, like, marijuana and weed is, like, a bad thing, right? And so we live in a world now where it's, like, most states, a lot of states it's legal in. And so this was, like, everything under the rug, everything under the table, like, silence. And I only watched the pilot episode, and that was it. So, yeah, and then like I said, I watched more Rick and Morty. And then I also started to watch The Isle of Dogs, but I have yet to finish it.
Ooh, I Love Dogs. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It is great. What about you? Have you been watching anything new and exciting?
No. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I know, it's been a slow week.
Did you finish Stranger Things yet?
Not yet, no.
I just want you
I
guys
just
to
didn't have
finish.
time.
It's all good. You're a busy man. What about you, Josh? Any movies? Anything noteworthy, like Community or something?
Just Community. Hot take, because I've always, because of what both they say in the Community fan base. I almost said community. That just sounds too weird. In the Community fan base, and they both literally say on the show, they always bash season 4. Hot take, it's not too bad. It's definitely like the weakest season, but it's not that shabby. They just had the one that's Introduction to Origins or something, where it shows you how they all met and like spoilers for Community, like that frozen yogurt shop or something, like before they decided to go to the community
Their
college.
origin stories.
That one's pretty good. Not gonna lie, I like that one. So season 4, there's some parts where it's weird and you can tell that it's just not the same as before, but it's actually not as bad as I remembered it.
So Rick and Morty's going into season 4, right? This next season?
Yes.
I listened to the Comic-Con panel with Dan Harmon. Did you guys hear this?
No, I didn't.
I listened to the panel with Dan Harmon, and his friend was basically the announcer for it that he does his podcast with. And they're talking about Rick and Morty and how the 4th season's coming out. And his buddy turns to him and he says, "Dan, how does it feel to be working on a 4th season of a show?" And then just silence.
That's pretty great, actually.
Poor guy. Well, actually, I was doing a little bit of like bored YouTube surfing when it comes to Rick and Morty, and I think that now, if anyone is stuck with us and is still listening, on the regular, I talk about Rick and Morty watching it a lot because it's just kind of like everyone else is like Josh is like Community or The Office, right? And everyone has those kind of like shows they go to where they can always get a good laugh from. Rick and Morty is that for me. And so I was doing like a weird one of those YouTube nights where I was like, what is on YouTube about Rick and Morty? And there's like 100 and some odd things about Rick and Morty that you didn't know or that you'll find interesting. And one of them talks about how Dan Harmon, I think it's him, I might be wrong, but he had written essentially the story for Rick and Morty like 9 different ways before it actually got picked up. And there's a couple of the knockoff Rick and Morty, it's like a different name, on YouTube somewhere, and you can find them, where it's like the first 2 episodes of Rick and Morty just done really sloppily and a little bit differently.
Interesting. That'd be
Yeah.
cool to watch.
I want to find them, so I didn't venture to it yet, but it's on the list of mine. Not these 2 sticky notes here, but my actual list. We need to get something better than these sticky notes of mine.
I made a Google Doc. I think I invited you guys to it a while back, but it's getting stacked here.
Oh, wait. I have looked at that Google Doc.
Oh, for the ones we need to do, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm going to rip these off like a Band-Aid. Done. Gone. Okay. But, yeah. So let's kind of get into this week's film, which we're doing for the fans and now for me because it was so great for me. But Alita, Battle Angel or Battle Angel Alita. Vince, do you have anything kind of to go over about the background and kind of some of the details about this film?
For sure. So, directed by Robert Rodriguez. This movie was made and released in February 14th, 2019. It was written by James Cameron. It was written by James Cameron, and I'm gonna destroy this word, this name, Laida Kalogridis. Kalogridis? Yeah, it's a toughie. It was a budget of $107 million and a worldwide gross of $404.8 million.
I saw.
More or less.
Wow.
I could be wrong, but I looked at a couple different places. I thought it was $200 million for the budget.
Yeah,
Am I getting
the
these
budget
stats
was like
wrong?
170 million.
Because I had a problem with this last week when we did Hobbs and Shaw.
Also, random thing about Robert Rodriguez, he also directed Spy Kids
He did, isn't that weird? I actually read a fun fact
and
about
Planet
him.
Terror and Machete.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is his very first PG-13 movie. Every one of his other movies have been PG or R.
Oh, so he just walks 2 lines and only
Yep.
2 lines. He's like PG-13. It's like doing the splits.
Until James Cameron comes along and is like, "Hey, I've been working on this movie for a decade. Do you want to finish it for me?" So another fun fact: James Cameron started working on this back in 2005.
Really?
2003, I think technically, but all the like artwork and stuff and the bonus features were concept art from 2005.
He's had the website like registered to him since 2000. So like he was probably doing that stuff in 2003, 2005, but he's had the idea and been at least semi-sure that he was going to work on it since 2000. So 19 years later, here you have it. And it's still made 7 times less than Avatar.
Yeah. Well, that was the big problem. Is it was Avatar that was keeping him from doing the movie. He started working on Alita. It was like his passion project, and then Avatar started coming along, so he's kind of doing both of them. And then Avatar just kind of took over, and then after it took off, he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna keep doing these for the rest of my life." And then Robert Rodriguez came along, and they were just chatting up one day, and Robert Rodriguez says like, "Hey, do you have anything like that I could work on? Are you working on anything?" He's like, "I actually have this Alita thing that I'm never gonna get around to." And gave it to Robert Rodriguez to do. This is all in the bonus features of the movie. If you guys didn't jump into that, there's a whole documentary you should watch. I must be dyslexic because it was $170 million that it cost to make, not 107.
Yep.
Okay.
So I wrote it wrong.
There's like both. I'm literally like on Google and I'm scrolling down, and on the different links, one is like 170, one is 200, the other one is 170.
Yeah.
So I have no clue which it is. But it's in that higher.
IMDb says like estimated. They just
They guessed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it grossed around $404.8 million. So it made all of its money back. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have given it 64%, have liked it, and an audience score of 93%, and IMDb gave it a 7.4. One last fun fact. This was the last movie made before Disney bought Fox.
Which is sort of ironic because at the very beginning of the movie, you have that light that pans, and the 20th Century Fox turns to the 26th Century Fox. But the movie never even made it out of the 21st century.
Yeah, no, it's
Or the
production company.
the production company,
Yeah.
exactly.
But that was cool how they did that. I was
I did
really
like that.
surprised. Like, that was a nice little touch.
That was good. This movie right from the beginning had me in like hype mode. I'm not going to lie. So whoever recommended this to us, you deserve
Tyler.
like a hug, kiss on the cheek or something. Get it from a spouse of yours or something. No, but
Okay, the movie stars Rosa Salazar as Alita, Christoph Waltz as Dyson Ito, Jennifer Connelly as Sheeran, Mahershala Ali as Vector, Ed Skrein as Zapan, Jackie Earl Haley as, now this is one of the names that I had a real hard time with, Growishka, I'm pretty sure is how you say it. He's the big guy, the tank guy.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And then last one is Kian Johnson as Hugo.
oh crap! Do you know what? I was calling what's his name, the German guy. I was calling him Hans Gruber, like from Die Hard, or yeah, that's
Who's a German guy?
Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz.
Oh, that guy,
I've been
right.
referring him to Hans Gruber the whole time.
Yeah, that's the bad guy from Die Hard. I just assumed that was the character from, you said Hans, I just assumed that was this character from Inglourious Bastards.
No, I just thought that was his name.
Okay, this is the fun part again. Casting considerations. Any guesses on who they thought about getting to play Alita?
I heard Zendaya was one.
Yep.
I don't know after that.
Zendaya, Bella Thorne, and Micah Monroe. Micah Monroe was in It Follows, if you guys saw that. Neither of you have seen It Follows. Put it on the
No.
list.
All right, scribbling down on these papers I threw away.
It Follows is great.
On
It's
the
a,
Google
it's a really
Doc.
good horror movie. Yeah, so I don't think any of these people would have been, these girls would have been right for it. I can't imagine any of them as Alita. I think that she was, that Bella, or the Rosa Salazar was perfectly cast, personally.
My pen doesn't work anymore, so that's not going on the list.
Oh man.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that she was definitely the best one for it, especially because I didn't know her as much before this, and so even though it's technically it's the performance graphic, right? But it's her face, pretty much,
Yeah, her expressions,
with
her
big eyes, and I don't think I could have dealt seeing Zendaya with big eyes for an entire movie, because this one I was able to get past it and just sort of be like, okay, that's who it is, that's a character. Listen, I don't think I could have done that.
yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
You like her?
I thought that this I'll get into it later. I just enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah, good casting.
So,
I thought actually the what's his name? Christoph Waltz, who plays Dyson Ito or Dr. Ito,
Mm-hmm.
right? He I thought that he did a very good portrayal of his character. So I looked up some of there's an anime film about this, right? It comes from manga. There's an anime film about it, and then there's this movie. And he did a pretty good job playing a pretty quirky, weird character, I think. So
yeah, he looks quirky. That's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Because I just saw like screen grabs of the manga and short little snippets from the anime.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
me too.
he doesn't look like, I wouldn't have cast Christoph Waltz. Looking at that character in the manga, I wouldn't have thought Christoph Waltz.
Never.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, his little hammer thing, they did so good at making that. I'm so
Yeah.
happy. Yeah, I'm not. So, funny thing, I got the comics or the manga, right? And I browsed through them for 30 seconds and flipped them on eBay for triple the price I bought it for.
So you never read them?
I just flipped through it and I never read it.
Now you regret it, don't
But I'm
you?
just like, I should have kept all of those.
You could have been so much more prepared for this episode.
I could have been. That's the funny thing is I'm like, dang it. I got it for 50 cents and sold it for a little bit more.
Wow, nice, man. So I have one. I've come up with a new little game, and I think we might start playing.
Okay.
The plot synopsis in the length of a tweet. Did you prepare one for us?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, so my plot synopsis goes: amnesia-laden woman who was found head up in garbage by doctor who fronts as a midnight warrior to pay the bills. As woman regains her memories and skills, she discovers her talent as a roller derby champion who fights thugs that aim to oppress the masses from their floating city.
Perfect. That was exactly the movie, I think.
That's so much
nailed
better
that, man.
than mine. I don't want to read mine anymore.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Okay. A strong female-ish lead emerges from the trash of society, literally. She doesn't know or remember basic foods, but somehow knows a form of martial arts that most people can't even say, much less remember or do.
Yep.
Amidst robot fighting and thrilling sports, we find a half-decent storyline.
That's good. I don't know why you didn't like it.
I liked it.
I loved Casey's though. The roller derby and everything.
Yeah.
That was great.
Doesn't one of your friends' wives do roller derby?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
Yo, I need to go do that because I've seen so many TV shows that has it, and at first I thought it was just like a joke that people did that, and then I was like, yo, people do that?
Roller
I
derby?
need to
Yeah.
go
There's
see
like
that.
a
I've
real
been to one
league.
of her
great.
games. It's cool. She actually has one on Saturday if you guys are interested in going to a bout. That's what she calls them. Bouts.
About.
Yep.
Because it's like fighting. You know,
Yeah, you're
you have
pushing
bouts.
each other around.
Is it like 10 p.m. in like a rundown bowling alley or something?
Probably. There's bets being made.
It's like 10
I want to
p.m.
go.
like
Is it
classic skating.
No, really. Let me know. I would come.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
Okay.
So this is my plot synopsis. Me and Casey's have very similar stuff, but mine is more of a joke than anything. You guys got did a way better job at explaining what this movie is. Mine's really short. It's 300-year-old amnesiac uses performance-enhancing heart to win roller derby competition.
That's like original Twitter length. Because mine will fit in like a modern day tweet.
Oh, is it
That's
bigger
what-
now? This is the last time I was on Twitter. That's how long it could be.
No, because now it's 280 characters,
Yeah, so it's
right?
140 originally. Now it's up to
Oh.
280. They did that around the presidential election of last year.
I didn't know
Sorry.
that. Or make that connection. That's pretty funny. But I liked that one.
Yeah.
That's nice and easy.
I thought it was witty and to the point.
Thank you. That's
Love
what I was
it.
going for.
That's a
All
good
right.
game. I enjoy it.
Yeah, let's do that from now on. There's
Yeah.
we all come up with just a short little thing, and
I'll have to prepare
Yeah.
mine better next time. I wrote this
I-
right before we started.
yeah, I was gonna say we didn't give you a lot of time.
It's all right. I'll do better next time, so watch for that.
Ooh.
All right. Should we put out the
Cool.
official spoilers?
Let's
Oh no, never.
let's just say, do you like it or don't you like it? Casey, I already know you did.
I'd give it 2 thumbs.
2 out of 2 thumbs out of 1 arm something.
2 thumbs
I'm
out
not
of 1
gonna-
available.
I'm not good at your 1 arm jokes. I don't have the practice you have.
Get a
Josh,
2 for 1.
just your initial thoughts, and then we'll jump into spoilers.
I liked it. I was reluctant to like it. I tried to go into it with a more open mind because I was pretty hesitant to watch this as many times as people said it. And I understand now why it has the following it has. There were definitely parts I liked and parts I didn't like, but overall I'd recommend it. I give it a rating. I give it a 7.2 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, that's about what I'd give it, about a 7.
And I gave it an 8.
Did you guys grow up watching anime?
No.
I grew up watching like Dragon Ball Z and a little like Gundam Wing, and a few of those like One Punch Man, sorry, and just a couple of different ones, but I wasn't a diehard fan, but I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch hardly any. Not even hardly. I might have seen some like on a friend's TV, but I didn't watch any anime growing up. I think the first time I ever watched like an anime show or movie was when my wife showed me Spirited Away, and I liked it, obviously, a lot.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know if that's the same thing. I'm pretty bad with knowing what
I don't know what Spirited Away is, so.
You don't know what Spirited Away
No,
is?
I'm sorry.
It won I'm pretty sure it won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature the year it came out. It's really good.
Okay.
I actually liked it because I still have my hesitations with like the anime style
Yeah, it's
of
an anime
animation
film.
and everything,
Uh-huh.
but I liked Spirited Away.
Oh, I've seen this one.
Yeah, it's good. I liked it.
I never.
Have you ever seen?
You've probably seen like the pictures or memes with like these people in it.
Yeah, with those people.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they have
I've
like a
seen
huge
like cosplays
following.
of that too.
Yeah.
The ghost guy. I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with anime. I dip my toe in it a little bit every once in a while when someone tells me I have to watch something. Like I watched some Trigun growing up. I watched some Attack on Titan. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And I can't remember the one where they draw the symbols on the ground and they use the elements to do stuff. I can't remember what it's called either.
Oh.
But I never get through more than one season before I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like I enjoy it. I see what the appeal is, but after a while, I just lose interest really, really fast. And so I was wondering if that affected my viewing of Alita, because it is a very very true to the
Source
material.
material.
to the manga. Yeah, I was wondering if
To that, and also to just the story itself, because I don't know if you saw it in the bonus features. I saw it in a couple of the YouTube videos I saw. That whole opening sequence is like basically shot for shot. where
From both, right? The manga and the anime.
because he picks up the robot thing and he pulls like an eye out of it, and then he sees her over in some trash heap. Oh, whoops, sorry. I mean, that's like the first shot
it's
of the
the
movie.
first
That's
5
not
minutes.
really.
We've already kind of
It's like
talked
the first
about
1 minute.
Yeah.
being
So-
like a head up in trash, but also he doesn't do a little quirky dance around like his little jig.
But he holds it up.
Yeah, he holds it up, which I thought the shot on that was way more impactful of the message of the film. I don't know, maybe I'm going too far into this already, but
No, I think that's about it. I just wanted to get our opinions out there. You guys would recommend people go see it?
does Avatar: The Last Airbender count as like anime?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Someone told me it did once, but I don't feel that it is, because it's like I feel like it was written for Americans by Americans, not
Yeah.
like for Americans by Japanese people.
I feel it's almost like a bridge, sort of. So it's like, it's not anime, and it's not halfway in between, but it's
It's like a gateway drug. It's like marijuana, right?
it's the American version of it, pretty much.
Okay. Well,
So would you guys? Yeah, you'd recommend it people to go see it?
yeah.
I'd say that people should see it. It's definitely one that's more under the radar, even though it earned 400 million. I think a lot less people know about it, and it's a film that deserves, recognition.
I heard that this one might actually turn out to be like the Warcraft film that came out a while ago, because the foreign audience loved it and the
that's where it made
American
most of its
audience
money.
didn't love it as much, but it got really good ratings here, even though like not as many people went and saw it.
Well, I was so surprised when I saw the 93% on Rotten Tomatoes for the audience score.
Yeah, me too.
I had no clue that the amount of just audience and not critic people who watched it, loved it so much.
Even the critics all gave it a decent score. Like, not a great score, about what we did, I think, but so I would agree with you guys. I would say see it. I would say there's definitely problems with the movie, but the highs make it so worth watching. So check it out. More than anything, I want to see a sequel to it. Like, I have a lot of problems with this one, but I think that now that they've established the world, the next one would be great.
Yeah.
And with that, let's jump into spoilers.
Spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
And that was one of my favorite parts. I watched a YouTube video for it, and it was like, what did it say? Oh, it said they tried to cram a whole franchise worth of exposition into one
Yes.
movie, and then it showed sequences of Alita asking questions that sort of gives you a basis to the franchise. She has like 20
I'm not
throughout the
surprised.
movie.
I mean, it's justified with the character because so it starts out, he finds her body laying there in the junkyard, takes her home. Dr. Ito, played by Christoph Waltz, he fixes cyborgs who have broken to pieces in the motor derby games. Am I right?
Just not in
Motorball.
the
Motorball.
motorball, but in the world in general, he fixes. Like he's just
yeah,
like a
okay.
clinic for people to come in and get repaired.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
because he goes and he talks to like what are they called, the hunter killers
Oh, right.
that
right.
he's
He
one
does
of,
do
and
that.
he's like, no more free repairs.
Yeah.
And everyone stops.
So he finds her, he takes her home, he fixes her up, and she wakes up with amnesia. So it kind of works with the character. She's the husk that we kind of see the world through, and she's got as many questions as we do when she wakes up. Everything's new to her, everything's new to us. So the 20 questions I feel like are kind of justified because we're asking those same questions as an audience, especially if you don't know the source material. Like, I knew nothing about this.
Yeah.
So it started and I was like, this is a lot. I don't know what's going on.
It was, for me, there was a part there at the beginning that was just, I don't know if it was too much of a stretch or if it just needed something more. Like, I get that she's new and she doesn't remember anything, but it was like she starts living with this guy with like no explanation. I don't know if that's just me, but it's just
With
like
Dr. Ito.
she just sort of walks downstairs and she's like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, we fixed you. And she's like, cool, like, let's be a family now. I was just like, what's
No
happening?
questions, yeah.
I mean, like, I get it.
Which I
that-
think that's the problem, though. I think, like you said, they crammed so much into the movie that they couldn't explore these slow, important moments because they just had to keep moving.
Yeah, because they had to keep going, otherwise the movie would be 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Why does she eat?
They talked about that in the bonus features, that cyborgs can eat, and the food gets, so the nutrients to the food keeps your human parts healthy. So like the brain still
right?
needs the nutrients and everything, so she has to eat to keep the nutrients good. And there's some kind of little bag inside of the
Okay, I
robots
was
that
wondering.
they have to go and they have to empty.
I was like, where does it go? Because
Yeah.
they open her up and it's just like the cyborg parts.
Uh-huh.
Like there's no stomach in there. Well, that's cool that you saw that because that was one of my
I didn't watch the
big burning
bonus feature.
questions.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. Like if you're eating, what happens to the food?
Because it was
Spoiler.
such a big part of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny though. Sort of like I mentioned in my little tweet summary, is that obviously she remembers stuff little by little, but she pretty much has this entire fighting style down. But she's like, "What are these? Oh, that's an orange." Like,
She just bites the whole orange skin and everything. I was like, oh, I don't like that. Ugh. Well, kind of when she comes down, right? She wakes up. She's in a different body than the one she was used to, right? It's like a smaller body. You can tell because her head is so big. But like she has to find her balance, and she goes upstairs, and there's some hesitation there. They don't show it very well, but she kind of like is like walks down, is like aware of it. And you can see that the nurse and Dr. Ito just both kind of like casually, and he gets up finally, and after she's friendly.
Kind of
Yes.
to see what her personality's like. That's one of the like main themes of the movie that Dr. Ito is trying to install in her. Is what does he say? Like it's not the body that is evil or good. It's the person inside the body or something like that. So he's like they're trying to play that father figure, teaching her what to do, teaching her how to be a good person in this new world that she's not used to.
Yeah. Well, immediately, like he goes outside and he starts teaching her, right? He's like, this is the world, and look up here. And, she saves the cat or whatever. It was a cat or a dog. I can't remember.
The dog.
there's a dog in this one. I think it was a cat in the previous ones.
But she like saves it, and like it kind of like starts instilling like all the skills and abilities that she has that she's not aware of because of this amnesia, right? And I think that's kind of cool that they kind of built it slowly, because this movie is all from the perception or point of view of Alita, right? It's not really from anyone else, and I kind of like that's a story going around Alita, but from Alita, of the experiences she has, in my perspective
Yeah.
of things.
I got serious Jason Bourne vibes
It's Jason Bourne.
throughout the thing. Just the amnesiac who all of a sudden has these special skills, and he doesn't understand why he has these special skills. So he has to go on this journey to figure out who he is, why he's got it, and what he's gonna do now that he's this different person because he doesn't have his memory. So he really is kind of a different person.
My favorite line from when, he's like freaking out at first is he's like, I know that I can run for like 35 minutes at a certain pace at this elevation, but I don't know anything else. And that's kind of Alita here. That's the experience that we're getting from her firsthand as well. Again.
So she goes and rescues this dog, jumps back up, learns that she's got all this like agility and stuff throughout the movie. She keeps doing all these things. And so my question for you guys, how much do you think Dr. Ito knows from the get-go? Like, he knows the fighting style she uses eventually. He knows that her heart is special because it's like a 300-year-old heart that can power the entire city or something like that. How much do you think he's keeping from her out of maybe fear or out of protection or something?
Well, I think that he keeps it from her because I'm sure there's parts of herself and parts of like that circuitry where her body, the human part, would connect to the rest of her cyborg body that must have some of those advanced connections, because when she comes back with the suit or whatever, right, he knows what that is, and he knows that it's dangerous, sort of. And so he must have known, probably looking at some of the technology, that she probably had a little bit to do with that. So he probably tried to keep a lot of it from her, because just like when she brought the suit back, he was like, I don't want to put you in this because it could be dangerous and you could, I don't know, like turn against us or something.
That makes sense.
And so maybe like with the circuitry and stuff that he saw in her, and he probably made some adjustments and some adapters so it would fit in like a regular cyborg body. I don't know. That's what I think.
No,
I guess.
that
That's
makes
just like a little
perfect
quick.
sense.
I did have a question that I wanted to ask you guys. Which did you like better? Did you like her beginning white cyborg suit or the later one?
I loved the I don't know, maybe it's not made of porcelain. It looked like porcelain.
I thought it was bone.
It kind of does.
So
look
there's
like
one point in the film, right, where they're like, there's a man who goes out and murders women at night and sells their bodies for parts, right? I was like, he's taking all this bone and making bodies with it. That's what I thought. But the porcelain suit is tight. He made that for his daughter originally, right?
I just realized why that is tied into the movie. I completely forgot about that because at the end of the movie, it turns out. Oh, I don't know if I want to jump clear over there, but we're going to.
Whatever.
The end of the movie, Vector, the bad guy of the movie,
Mahershala Ali,
played by Mahershala Ali, he reveals that the only way that you're going to get up onto the city, the floating city in the sky, is in pieces, pretty much. And so he opens up that box, and you see Sheeran, all in pieces over there, right? And she's going to be going up to this second bad guy that's supposedly going to be in the sequel in pieces for him to do his experiment. That must be why these robots are going around hunting these women, because they're trying to get these pieces to send up to Nova to do experiments on. Yeah. I didn't even realize that until just barely.
Also, this is the second week in a row, now that you mentioned those other robots and cyborgs that are hunting people, this is the second week in a row that we've had a film where Itza Gonzalez is in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's gone again.
Why does she keep showing up in these movies?
I don't know, man. I thought it was pretty funny. Like, that was a pretty cool action sequence, to be real. Don't know if we want to...
See, that's the strong part of the movies is the action. And let's talk about the CGI a little bit. The CGI in this movie is incredible. It looks so beautiful.
It looks so beautiful, and the thing is that they wanted to make sure that, because it's the performance digitalization, right, where they have all the dots and the specific sensors on her. Like, I watched the little behind-the-scenes thing, and it was basically what would happen is that her whole body and everything, because since it's so different, is CGI'd, but it's just changed from it. So what they do is they have what she wore on set, Rosa Salazar, it had different little like microchips throughout her entire outfit, and tons of different cameras on the set would just track where those were, like by the microsecond. So it allowed you to build the skeleton and sort of the shape of Alita on set, and then they had the cameras that would like come out in front of her face, sort of like they do for like the Avengers and everything, so it can track the facial movements. And so they had those filming her, and then they built it up from there. And the reason that it looks so good is because they spent so much time doing it to make sure that even though it was CGI, they said they spent so long because they wanted to they said, hey, there's going to be shots where we're going to have a medium to close up of Alita standing right next to Dr. Ido, and they need to not look like they're from different worlds, relatively, right? Because, I mean, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, Alita's obviously different for reasons, right, that she looks different, but they said they need to not look like they're from... I wrote it down. One of the main people said, I think we were able to create a perfect blend of live action and CG action in a single frame. I wouldn't say perfect, but I'd say it was pretty freaking good.
It was
and
really
it looked
close.
incredible.
There's even a scene where Dr. Ito reaches out and brushes a tear off of her face, and it looks real. Like it doesn't have that uncanny valley feel to it. I will admit, though, there was some scenes where some things were just a little bit off with Alita or with some of the other characters. But for the most part, I bought into it. It took me a little bit, but I bought into the realism.
There were scenes where it didn't work, but there were scenes where it was so intricate that you were just like, how? The scene where after he rescues her and she first wakes up in the bed and it's just the whole frame is basically her face is ridiculous. It's amazing.
Yeah, so I found a little bit of information. So in Alita's eye alone, there is more geometry than all of the character Golem from Lord of the Rings. And that's just the eye. Like all the movements and the iris and everything.
That's what's becoming so crazy about a lot of these like CGI films or these like Pixar films. I don't know what those are called really. Like the what do you call them?
Animated, computer animated.
Like computer animated things, like where they're really just investing a lot of time into digitally creating things. So for instance, and I know this is going off like the plan a little bit, but take Tangled, for instance, right? That's a film about a lady who has a ton of hair, Rapunzel. And people complained about Rapunzel's hair not looking real enough. So maybe I'm thinking vice versa. But in Frozen, there was people whose sole job was just to do hair and only to work on all the hair on all the people, like just to make them as real as possible. And what we're seeing in these films that are like live action, I don't even call them like hybrids of these other films, they are like where they have to do the CGI, they're doing incredibly good with the beasts, the people that they have to adapt to. And it's almost becoming to the point where like I had to pause the movie a couple of times just to kind of see if I could see any weaknesses or any mistakes. And me and my untrained eye did not find anything great, but other people who, like the two of you, whose eyes are probably more adept to seeing, up there's where the air was, probably saw a few things. So.
I didn't see anything wrong with the hair. I thought it looked perfect.
Oh, I was meaning like the CGI stuff in general. I didn't really notice anything too crazy.
Yeah.
So to go along with the look, I mean, obviously this is one of the biggest questions that people had both when the trailer dropped and as they watched their movie with her face and her eyes. Did you guys like what they did? Was it too distracting? Was it the right amount of what they wanted to do to keep it original to the what's it called, manga?
To the manga, yeah.
Manga. What did you guys think?
I actually really liked it. It was a little bit weird at first, but I don't know. It just made the action scenes so much more believable to me. Call back to Hobbs and Shaw last week. The CGI scenes in Hobbs and Shaw, you could tell were CGI. Like when he's out there holding a helicopter from flying off into the sky, and swinging around the cliff, you can tell that was a CGI version of The Rock. But since this is done so smooth, like seamlessly, going from, like you said, having real life actors in with a CGI character, when it transitions to those fully CGI fight scenes, it just feels so natural and so real, and it doesn't take me out of the movie as much as something like that did in Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah. I like with the CGI and the action and just kind of the entire movement of everything. I didn't feel that it was out of place at all. I didn't feel that I like this shouldn't be here, right? Like when we're gonna talk back on Hobbs and Shaw a little bit, I think on this one, yeah, it was too unrealistic because they tried to set it in such a realistic world, right? Or the idea of a realistic world, like where you and I walk. This one was nowhere where I will ever be. There are floating cities in this thing. I get the space station is above us, but I don't think in my lifetime there will ever be a New York flying around. And so for me, it was easier for me just to put myself into this is the world, this is reality, and this is okay. And so I think that for me made everything work. And yeah, I didn't feel like
and
it was...
I also think that it works so well because, like you were saying, the facial readings that they're able to do. You could just really see her emotion in every one of those close-ups. You could really see what she was thinking. And that's what I was going to say before we started getting into the CGI talk, is like there are moments in the story that drug on and I hated. The whole relationship between her and Hugo I thought was so melodramatic and over the top and boring. I just didn't buy any of it. But when it got to Alita, like having her big fight scene with, I'm going to destroy his name, Grewishka, like, and the moment when she gets cut into pieces and she's like laying there on the ground and he picks her up and you see the anger and like just the emotion on her face, like I was in that moment. So I was kind of bored. We get into this big fight scene. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then you started to really feel for the character because they did such a good job with that animation and those expressions. And it just, I was in for those moments, and then they'd lose me again for other moments. And then I'd get back in again once something exciting or interesting started happening again. So it's kind of a roller coaster of a movie for me where I was in and I was kind of out, in and out.
Well, and that's a big part of it. That's why people have both positive and mixed reviews from it, is because the storyline is interesting, but a lot of times is really slow. And a lot of times there's not a lot of depth to the characters or the things that they're going through. And so it's sort of a double-edged sword, right? Where you have the really cool, CGI thing that's going on. So even though this character is CGI, it looks like a real person and it's fitting into this real person world, even though she's supposed to be different, both in her animation as well as a person, right? She's supposed to be sort of like this battle angel savior person to this society, right? And so you have that. I also agree with what you're saying. I was thinking about it, where a lot of times I would see it and I'm just like, why does this chick have like bigger eyes than everyone else? Like not a single other person would like have it next to her, and that would distract me. But I think it more than made up for it with what you said earlier about the emotion that she was able to express, because so much of the emotion when you see actors doing it is such strain just right here in your eyes and your cheeks and everything like that. So to be able to blow that up, I mean, so much of the movie is you empathizing with her and her situation, is that she doesn't know what's going on, she's learning, a lot of bad stuff has happened to her in her life, and so much of it is empathy with her. And so the ability, James Cameron even said, so much of it is just about, you want her to be able to express the maximum emotions possible. I mean, having her eyes be that big and just her face be able to be larger than life, and then be able to add little details. The emotion from Alita was one of the driving forces of the movie.
I kind of think that when we're talking about the relationship and all of these little technicalities and features, one, the eyes, I thought about this a little bit after I finished the film of why they need to be so big, because that was, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but also I thought about it and I thought back on, we talked about our friend, the Black Superman, last week with Hobbs and Shaw, and how his eyes were designed. We didn't get to see like maybe the in-eye experience of Alita, but I'm curious if that had something to do with it. If, for instance, there are computers or things wiring off inside and she needed the extra detail to be able to see, because like her focus could change and adjust, and because she's built as a super soldier and that's the way she's supposed to be designed. Also, she's a Martian.
Yeah, this is another problem I had, is I knew nothing about this series, and so it was a little overwhelming, because like they didn't say anything about Mars in the movie, did they? I mean, they said that they were Martian, or they were ERMs. Is that what they called them?
No, but they did. They said that like Mars. They said it was ERMs because it was like Mars that like attacked Earth.
Okay, I must have misheard that. I understood that they were from outer space and they attacked the planet, and that's what caused the fall, was because there was some war between Mars and Earth, right?
Yo.
And this is the very last city standing. The rest of the Earth was destroyed or something like that, and so everyone came to this city where the last floating city stood, and somehow the war ended with these Martians, and that's where Alita came from.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm sure someone can correct me, because people actually know about the animated series and how it actually goes down. And I have a theory-ish that I sort of got from it, is that I know that the Martians were attacking Earth and stuff. And so part of why I think that she still might be a Martian, because part of me thinks she is, part of me thinks she's not. The part of me that thinks she is rationalizes with, she remembers freaking fighting a battle on the moon. Like,
Right.
Why would they be doing that if they were anywhere, either from Mars, or even if she was from Earth, they'd be fighting Martians, right? Then part of me is like, there's not people on Mars. When she's having these like flashbacks, you got the people who were down in like the city trying to attack the big city, like the rich city, and then the rich city like won, and so they like obliterate everyone, and then they rebuild society according to their own laws and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but isn't Nova a Martian too? Like, wasn't he there in one of her flashbacks when she's training with her superior,
she is in
and
the
he was
flashback.
there? He was there, like watching her training or something.
Because they're in that ship.
So does that mean that they took over the city? He like, did Nova win and just like send all the humans down to Earth? Well, no, because that can't be right, because Dr. Ito used to live up there too, and his wife.
Yeah.
But they all have jewels in their head, and he talks about pulling his out,
removing it.
and I'm
That, I guess, see, this is my problem. There's just so much that they put into this movie, and it was so overwhelming to me, and a lot of the time I felt so lost. But the thing that kept me in it was Alita herself, her journey, her experience, not so much the love story, but just her figuring out who she is and what she's capable of doing. That's what I really held on to.
She's like my favorite person in the entire movie, except for a couple times, because she's a badass, and she does a ton of stuff. But then sometimes when she has the chance to save someone or to get in the way of something, she lets something happen first and then reacts later. Like when, not to jump super far forward, but when Hugo dies I mean, she was obviously there thinking about like maybe killing him because he had maybe killed and cyborgs and stuff. She didn't really know. And that guy's next, what's his name, Zapan or whatever. And she's just sitting right there next to him, and he's like, "I'll make it easy," and he like stabs him, and then she's like, "Oh crap, no!" Or when she's fighting Grewishka in the bar, and Grewishka freaking kills that puppy, and she just looks, and then she's like, "Oh crap," and then uses the dog's blood.
Oh my gosh.
What was that?
I had no idea. I've seen all these posters with her having that red under her eyes. I had no idea that was dog's blood. That is
puppy
so
blood.
messed up.
Well, I don't know. I think like that relationship, right? And kind of the relationship was there to kind of be that staple that although you want something in life, something might not always want you. It always has an alternate purpose. Because think about it. There's one point in this film where Alita like pulls out her little heart that can power everything and says, "I'll give it to you. Whatever, dude. I want to be with you." And he's just like, "Oh, no. Put that back in." And then when they're up there and he's like this robot, right? Now he's a cyborg. And he's like his only destination after all this crap happens to him. She saves his life. They rebuild him. His purpose is still to get to the freaking city in the sky.
Yeah, that guy was selfish.
He was way selfish, but it proves, and it kind of like proves a point that you might be into someone, but someone might pose or say that they're into you, but really they're just looking over the hill ready for the other side. That's still their end goal. Mm-hmm. And you're just a part of that journey and not necessarily the main part. And so what's kind of crazy is Alita and him up there on the cable going to the city and all of that falling apart and him falling. It's kind of like a Band-Aid off your body, right? Type thing where, oh, this is the end. Nothing else. Love sucks. Love hurts. Love has pain, whatever that might be. But it also like proved and kind of like for him, Alita was in his way and a distraction to get to what he wanted. And for Alita, that love was a distraction for her to be able to get up there and destroy. Oh, crap. What's the bad guy's name again? Nova. Edward Norton.
Yeah, surprise, Edward Norton's in this.
Yeah.
What?
I doubt he'll be in the second one because no one can work with him for 2 movies. No,
I mean, he was barely in the first one, so.
Yeah.
I had a train of thought on Hugo. So, like, his whole purpose in the movie, like, was to get to Zatan. Is that how you say it, Zatan? See, this is another problem I have with a lot of animes in general.
What's Zatan?
That's the floating island in the sky, I'm pretty sure.
It's not Zatan.
It's not?
No.
It's like Zalam or something. Salami.
I actually have a list of like 6 words. It's Zalam. Sorry. There's like 6 different words that I had a really hard time with like watching this. Zalam, Panzerkunst, which is her martial arts style. Erms, I had to look up what that was. Growishka, Zapan, like, there's a lot of words that I was having a real hard time with.
And there's also just so many people, and they have weird names, and sometimes weird names are a good thing, because they help you remember characters, but when there's so many, and there's very little character development with certain characters, at the very end, when Mahershala Ali showed Alita the box with Dr. Chirin in it, I had to, like, pause, and I had to look up. I was like, wait a second, which one is Chirin? Like, I didn't remember.
I had to do the same thing.
So, I mean, like, it's good, but there's just a lot.
So anyway, my thought was Hugo, his whole story, or his whole life, he's just been trying to get up to Zalem, right? He sees Alita, and he's like, this is my ticket up there. I've been selling pieces of he goes around with his crew, torturing people, cutting off their pieces, and leaving them as paraplegics in the street to make money.
What a guy.
Assuming that eventually he's going to have enough money to go up, live on Zalem, live as a king.
There's some rumor that if he has $1 million of whatever, he can get up there.
So Vector, Mahershala Ali's character, tells him that he will send him up there if he makes him $1 million. So him and his crew are running around the streets, cutting people up, selling their pieces to Vector, who uses those pieces to power his Motorball dudes.
Games and stuff.
Yeah, games. Yep. So he sees Alita and he's like, "Oh, this is my ticket," you know. So and you can kind of see, like, thinking back when he very first meets Alita, he's like asking her questions, and then Dr. Ito comes over and puts his arm around her. You can kind of tell that he's like very protective of her. He views her as his daughter because his daughter had died, right?
And he's using his daughter's body for Alita.
And I wonder if he kind of knows what what he's up to, running around the streets taking people's pieces, and he's kind of there like, yo, don't mess with my daughter, like this, she's with me.
Yeah.
You don't mess with people, with my people. And so Hugo, that's his whole purpose, and Alita is able through their relationship to change his mind so he becomes a better person. But like you said, even after he quote unquote becomes a better person, decides he doesn't want to torture people anymore and steal their body parts, he's still so obsessed with this idea of a better life up in the heavens than where he is there that he still selfishly tries to run away.
What is that? The grass is greener principle, no matter what. And it's
Well, because I thought about it sort of as a, how can you say it? Like a metaphor just for life. Just, I mean, because a lot of times with people who do believe in an afterlife or heaven, they'll do things in this life. I'm not like trying to be like religious or say religion is bad, just sort of as like a metaphor. There's like sometimes people do things in this life that don't make them happy so that they could be happy in like a later life, or trying to go somewhere else that they believe will make them happy. And so you can miss out on a ton that's like here.
Yeah.
You know? And then, so Hugo, I had things that I both liked and disliked, mostly disliked with Hugo. Liked, and maybe this just sounds like I hated Hugo, because the thing that I liked about him was the dramatic irony of his death, where he falls from the clouds with all of his arms and legs ripped off, just like he did to so many people.
Oh, yeah.
So
Kind of deserved it.
yeah, so he really did. But then disliked, I mean, like you said, obviously with this story and with Alita learning who she is, I mean, there's got to be some sort of romance there, but I agree with you. It was just super over the top. I'm sure there was like 45 to 50 minutes. That was a lot of it. It was just like them doing their thing together, you know, and I was done with that.
Yeah, I didn't like any of it.
Well, what I liked about it was he kind of introduces her to a sport that enables her to kind of re-harness or re-hone in on her skills, which is kind of interesting because going back to earlier in the movie, and I know we haven't really been like sequence by sequence, and that's not what I'm trying to do here, but he takes her and like she shows up and she sees him playing, you know, Motorball, right? That's what it's called.
My favorite part of the movie, just so you guys know,
Really?
Motorball.
The
When they're
early
playing in the
Motorball,
streets?
or
No, just the idea and the concept of Motorball is my favorite.
what if we
Okay.
I loved
created
it.
a Motorball?
We should do it.
Let's do it. I'm patenting
I
that
loved-
idea with everyone
Can't
else in this
patent
room.
it. They already have it for this movie.
But it's in the movie and this idea, but it's not in real life. I'm gonna create the first Motorball National League,
Yo, man,
World Motorball League.
I drove by the skate park today, and there was like one 7-year-old kid there. So I'm sure that we could go there sometime, just set up like a little kid's basketball hoop on the side, and we could play Motorball.
Done. I'll be there. But what's really cool going forward is that playing Motorball, it's like bumped pretty hard at one point, and she like pulls up, and this is going back to the expressions and the eyes and everything. It's kind of like, one, I thought, oh man, her circus just got jolted and she's going to become like a feisty killing machine here. I guess I shouldn't use feisty, but like a freak of nature killing machine would be better. Or she's kind of like recognizing, got to play tough here. And that's kind of like what happens is she kind of progresses into the actual major event where she's trying out for the big circuit, right? She shows up, Dr. Ito's there, and he's like giving her all this gear and all this stuff, and she's like, I don't need this. And this is the part where she puts on the helmet and looks like Mega Man for a minute. But then, like, you really start to see what all of these, like, she's been building up to, all these skills that she has. And it is fantastic. This fighting, this destruction, the ability is all coming full circle. And you're like, oh man, Alita, battle angel indeed.
Yeah, like she figures out that that's kind of what makes her memories come back, is putting herself in these life-threatening situations, playing Motorball. And then when she goes out and she follows Dr. Ito and finds out he's I just spaced the word. What is it? Monster hunter?
Monster hunter.
Hunter killer.
Yeah, so when she goes out stalking Dr. Ito and finds out that he's a hunter killer, she's like, I want to be a part of this because I know this will trigger my memories. Let me do this with you. But I agree with what you were saying earlier, Josh. Like, I think he does know what she is, and he's afraid that she's afraid that when she unlocks her memories, she'll become that killing machine again. And that's got to be why he's protecting her and not wanting her to do these things.
So I think that's why he keeps it from her, right? Like you said, and but she wants it because for her, like memory,
Yeah.
that's like everything.
That's who she
Because she
is.
doesn't have it, and so she's like, I'm sort of just learning to be this new person, but I'd really like to know who I was before. You know, if I was like 300 years old, which I guess she doesn't find that out until later. But yeah. So just before we move too far away from it, I did want to let you guys know that was. I wish that there was more Motorball in the movie and just like a better explanation of what it was, because sometimes I got confused. But I loved it because I don't know what it is. Just like action sequences of like cool sports that we don't really know about in movies. That's like my favorite. I love that. Like Tron.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Tron. Like Casey talked about the other day when we were talking about movie reboots. So I liked that. And so I wanted more Motorball because a lot of times there was Motorball and I was like, yeah. And then it would leave to like a boring dialogue in the movie. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I want Motorball again.
So with this movie, it might be like our Spider-Man more Bonesaw, more Motorball. We need more
There was
Motorball.
no Motorball.
I'm gonna push back on you. I liked the Motorball stuff. I thought it looked really, really cool. I thought it was used the perfect amount. What I would have wanted more is more of the stuff like the fight with Growishka, where you're exploring kind of the backstory of these big evil villains, and you're exploring more of the emotional ties that the emotional aspect of Alita's life over these big rollerball sequences. The way that they used rollerball was, I'm sorry, we keep calling it rollerball. Motorball. The way that they used it was perfect for the story as a way for her and for Hugo to get up into the floating city. Like, I completely get the way they used it, and I think they used it perfectly. It was really cool. The action on it, like you said, is so cool, and they have rules for this game. Like, you can get on and you can read all the rules on how to play it. But I didn't want more of it. I wanted more of the personal, slower moments away from Hugo.
So I think from a movie standpoint, I agree with you as far as like a critical sense. For my own personal enjoyment, I think I wanted more Motorball.
Yeah.
That's for me.
So when you were talking about this kind of cool, like kind of the backstory and the slow moments, I thought about this too. We're talking about Garushka, right? Is that how you say his name? I don't know. You know what my
We're just
favorite?
going with that now.
What you know when he like breaks it and jumps down into the hole and he's like, "Come fight where I live" or something like that.
Into my world.
Yeah, that I want to explore more of that, because what it looks like just dead cities built upon dead cities. So it's like boneyards on boneyards. It reminded me a little bit of Mexico City, as well as what I imagine happened in Blade Runner, kind of like cities dying, and so the rich are rebuilding them above it, or the people are just building up to get away from the danger. And so it makes you wonder, is there like a sub-level civilization somewhere? Is the Golden Army and everyone down there from, Hellboy? What is going on down there?
This would be the perfect movie for Alita. Instead of trying to pack all this stuff into one and then in the next movie get up onto the floating city, it should have been something like a small story where Alita's putting herself, like, she becomes a hunter-killer, she works with Dr. Ito, she starts hunting Gruishka down, goes and explores this underworld. We get introduced to more of what this world is through his history, through the history that she's running around and experiencing, and then in the next one introduce the Motorball stuff and introduce the way to get up to the city and trying to get away from this part of the world that we know about now before it tries to expand into a bigger world. Like, let's start with a base before you start throwing a million things at me and get me confused.
How many days was this? Like, how long was the timeline of the film we watched? Like 3 days, essentially? It felt like it was just a couple of days and all this happened. So
I have no idea.
I would love to see it played out in a longer stream of things as well. Something where it's like building off. Maybe I'll watch the anime series and see what it's all
I
about.
kind of want to too. That the anime looked cool,
Maybe we should watch it and do like a recap in a month or
or a
something.
bonus episode.
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
don't
cool.
know.
I will say that I liked the last part of the movie, how it sort of set up the rest of the franchise if it goes off from it. Because, like, the last third of the movie, even though there was a lot that I didn't like, just because of a few different story things, I was pretty engaged. Whereas the first 2/3, I had to rewind for 5 minutes once because I fell asleep. And that is an honest, like, I woke up and I was like, oh crap. I don't remember what's going on because I fell asleep really quick. There was still very good redeeming things in the first 2/3, but I'll say that it was pretty good. And then the last third, I was actually really engaged pretty much the whole time. And more so because it was abrupt rather than it was abrupt and I wasn't expecting it. I just freaked out at the end because I thought that it was going to be like a full story, just like its own movie. I didn't know it was sort of like trying to kick off like a multiple series event. And so just when it ended, I was like, what the heck? Because I was expecting closure.
It definitely left you wanting more.
And I liked it though. I said, the very end with the motorball, and then when they go through the city and everything was pretty cool. A lot of different things happened, and she battles and kills Vector, which, by the way, that was like one of the most hilarious parts of the movie. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but Vector in his little like factory thing that he's in, he has the doors that like make a V, like with the handles.
I didn't notice that.
Like in Despicable Me, where you have Vector, he has like the same thing.
I thought you were gonna bring up the little like talking head that pops up whenever you turn in one of the hunter killers turn in their things.
God.
That
I
part,
loved that little thing. It was the goofiest looking little head that pops up, and it's like, turn in your prize, and then it scans it and takes the head and gives you your money.
That was pretty funny. That part where Alita first enters in and she destroys that thing, that for me was super badass. I mean, just like the whole when she kills all the tanks and stuff, like that's pretty cool. But then she just like rips one of the machine guns off, and it could have been so cheesy. And that thing's like, oh, there's a violation, and just like, it just wrecks it and throws away the gun.
You have all the Ed 209s that are guarding the little thing, and she just tears them all apart.
Yeah,
I loved that. I think it's cool that. So, right, with Alita and kind of her tools and weaponry, she kind of gets going. That sword is like kind of something that we hear about right early on in the film, where he's like, oh yeah, this is only for, Erms and all of this. And then what's freaking badass about this is she gets it, and then she has that little thing in her new body that shoots like plasma out it, and it's like becomes like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
So that thing freaking tears people up. And I loved it. It was so exciting that it was just like, and like she knew what it was for. Like her memories were just coming back to where she was like, got a weapon, can kill. And I love that. The only thing that I was kind of sad about, and like, forgive me for being childish and wanting this to go full circle within the thing. The part where they're all climbing up it with her friends to invade the city? They're climbing up the rope tower thing, and the spiral jaw blades come down.
In the flashback?
Yeah, in the flashback. Why couldn't she have just used their knives and swords just to like lightsaber that sucker in half?
Well, because that's not just gonna like throw it to the side. I mean, it might do that for one person, but they're all climbing up this huge tunnel that goes from the factories up to the city.
That's true. Well, I know, but I hoped.
That's another thing that I would love to see is a prequel to the movie of Alita on the moon in training. The war, I guess. The war before the fall could be a really cool moment in time to explore that we'll never get. Another fun little fact, her trainer, did you guys recognize the voice at all? It is Michelle Rodriguez from the Fast and Furious series.
Oh, right. Yeah. I saw that she was in the cast list.
Yeah, that was her. Another one of those little cameos.
So we talk a lot about the action in it, and I loved a lot of the action. The action was a big part of why I liked this movie. And then maybe people can agree or disagree with me on this. The only part that I thought was maybe a little bit disappointing is it's almost, until we get to the very end, a lot of it is the same action. Like, she fights Growishka, just like her on him, like 3 times in the movie. And it's just like, I mean, it's not the same battle. And I know that you have villains and they come back and whatever, but it's just like, it's not building to anything until the very end where, she kills him, obviously. But it's like she fights him that one time at the beginning with Itza Gonzalez, and then she fights him in the bar, and then down below where... Not to lie, that part was pretty dope when she killed her, even though she just had one arm.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part of the movie.
That was pretty sweet.
I was so into it.
And then the very end where she killed Vector and all that other stuff.
Yeah, she had the fight in the bar scene too.
Well, yeah, because she did the bar and then dropped down.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's all part of the same sequence, isn't it?
Where she has the puppy blood on her face.
I just wish the guy with the dogs had been more cool.
I liked him.
I wanted
much
him more.
cooler.
Yeah,
that's the right word.
I wanted to see more of him do his thing. That's kind of what I thought they were foreshadowing with that when she goes into the bar sequence. I thought she was actually going to recruit these guys and they were all going to work together to take down the factory.
It was so cheesy, though.
The fight scene?
No.
Or the bar scene, I mean?
The bar scene. Because you have the one guy that laughs at it, but I was legitimately laughing for both speeches. Because she makes one and then the guy laughs and she sort of hits him. And then she tries to get everyone all together. It was so cheesy. And there was so many cliches in this movie that I was like, this has the potential to be a really great and innovative and revolutionary movie, but just does so many things. And you're like, come on. Like this chick in a bar just giving a speech to try and rally the troops. And I'm like, I get that that's what sells a lot of times. There was just that and a ton of other things.
I agree with you. I will say, though, there was a couple of moments in that one where you actually see Alita show a little more personality.
That's true.
Like the way that she calls people out and some of the stuff that she does in there that I appreciated, but I am 100% on board with what you just said. Like it gets a little cheesy in there.
My least favorite part possibly of the whole movie is where she's like, I have advanced sensory perceptions now. And Hugo's like, can you feel this? Can you feel this?
Does it bother you that I'm not human?
Oh my god.
You're the most human person I've ever seen. That's what I'm saying. That whole romance, I did not buy it.
I think that was also kind of a little bit weird for me. I was like, oh, what are they going to do? Like robot sex? I was a little concerned about it. I'll be honest with you. I was like, remember, I will not hug a robot or an alien or anything like that personally. So I was like,
that's
no, please don't. No.
That was going to be one of my questions for tonight. Now that you've seen all these cyborgs, would you hug a cyborg?
Cyborgs are fine because technically they're cyborgs that live among us.
Because Alita is a cyborg. Would you hug her? She's very human.
She's pretty cute.
Yeah, and she's very, like, humanistic. Is that a word?
Humanesque.
Humanesque.
If that's a word, I just made that up too.
Maybe if like the robot body was played down a little bit, like yeah, maybe. But I was like, nah.
You're into meat bags?
Okay, I'm into like something that can spoil after you die.
What the? Okay. Moving on.
But
please.
Yeah. Sorry guys, we're all gonna die. That's the moral of my message right there.
That's right. That's too funny. I'm into something that'll spoil after it does.
So make the most of your life now instead of trying to get into Zalem. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Don't do stupid stuff though.
What more do we have to talk about this film?
I have a little thing. If you guys are ready. So I prepared a little bit, sort of like last time, a little bit shorter. That is reasons that Alita Battle Angel is basically just the new Hunger Games or Divergent. Ready? Strong female lead with elite physical and mental abilities exists in a future dystopic society with a boyfriend who has ulterior motives. Exists in a society where you think you know what's going on, but they're going to turn it on itself because there's a super evil white dude controlling the entire world that's going to be taken down by a rebellion led by the main character. There's a main sport or physical activity which the main character excels at and beats all the boys at. While there's boys and stuff, their main goal is to get you to empathize and side with the main girl no matter what her decision is and not the boys. The movie is just a setup. This movie, even though it has its own action, is just a setup for the main action and rebellion for the rest of the movies. So even though it's different, this is basically just the new CGI Hunger Games or Divergent, which is why. So here's what I'll say because I got so confused while I was on Twitter interacting with you guys, seeing so many people on IMDb and the Academy talking about Alita Battle Angel, Alita Battle Angel, Alita Battle Angel. Basically what it is Alita Battle Angel is the new Hunger Games or Divergent without as much fan following. So it's like if you went and saw Hunger Games, but it wasn't as such a big deal. You'd be like, yo, like everyone needs to pay attention to this. So I understand the fan following and I get it. I don't understand when the fans talk about awards. They're like, yo, this needs to get into like Oscar hype and stuff like that. And I'm like, no.
I don't
That's
think
where
this
I draw
is
the
an
line.
award-worthy movie, to be honest with you.
Maybe for
some effects, like
special effects.
Because let's be real, that's definitely the most revolutionary part of the movie is that she looks great and she looks normal standing next to a real human being.
Yeah.
That's my little bit.
That's interesting. I would never put it together, but you're 100% right on those.
I think kind of going along with that, where you talked about kind of like the white guy villain and stuff like that, I'm curious, like now more than ever, to kind of understand the manga and the anime of it, because right, it's a Japanese source material, and so why did we whitewash it so much? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong or crazy.
I have the answer for that.
Okay.
Because it's the end of the world, and everyone comes together in this one city. And there's actually, in one of the special features, they talked about the different sections of the city. Yeah. And it's basically like going to New York or San Francisco, where there's like Chinatown, the Latin section. So there are, in this city, there are different cultures.
There's
that
factions,
come all
is
over
what
the
you're
world.
saying.
Factions.
Do you know what this reminds me of a little bit?
I don't know why I was just like, yes, factions.
Hey man, it's divergent. What can I say?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, this reminds
So
me of...
there's my answer for that one.
Oh, that makes sense. It reminds me of Eon Flux. Because now thinking about it, now that you've said, hey, this is the world, and they've all come in, right? As you go up out of the city, you can see that it's just forested and trees and wild growing back in, and there is a city of refuge, essentially, just chilling there. Same thing with Eon Flux. There's a thing floating around the sky, weird men up there running things and choosing the future of the groups below.
Yeah, you can see a lot of movies pulled inspiration from this. Elysium is basically the same story, floating story in the sky.
I thought of that when
I
saw that first shot with it up in the sky,
Yeah.
and she was down, and she's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's Elysium, girl. That's what it is."
Exactly. I think that that's the coolest thing about manga and anime is the inspiration that people pull from it. That's what I like the most, because I can't get into it, but people who are into it, like, there's such creative and cool ideas in anime and manga. I'm missing out on them, and I know that I am, and I really wish I could get into it. And that's why I love everyone who is into it. They can pull all this inspiration, they can make their own versions of it, and then I can enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Like, I'm super happy because, like I've said good things and bad things throughout the podcast. I'm super happy that for some reason James Cameron was obsessed with this when he was a little bit younger, and so he decided to start making this big movie, and it eventually came to the big screen because I enjoyed it. So I'm glad that he was able to see that and be like, hey, we can make something really cool that will appeal to a wider audience, because this is that sort of style that I can get into. Yeah. Because I'm with you, where just the anime style, a lot of times I can get turned off by it and I just can't get into it, like you said. But then this is that made for us, made for me.
Yeah.
Boom.
So my final thoughts: please, people, go support this movie. I want to see more of it. Though I had my problems with this one, I really want to see more of it. I want to see it on the big screen with money put into it. I don't want a series. I want to see these big, spectacular special effects with a little bit more of a focus on story, but I want the money put into it. So go support it. It's worth watching. It's not the best movie, but it's definitely worth a view.
I want Hunger Games 2 and Alita Battle Angel 2 and 3, everyone. We can't just leave it with Emperor Snow or Nova, right? Like giving that ominous look, and there she's pointing the thing at him, which I was just really quick. I was annoyed with that last shot, by the way, because that thing was forever away. Like, he was sitting up and he was looking down at the lights. He could see the lights. Like, it was like it wasn't a speck, but it was just like a little light, like out in the distance. But he was supposedly like looking at her, and she was like pointing at him, which I know it could have just been significant, him knowing that she's there and him knowing that he's there. But I was like, that's so dumb. They're like looking at each other. Yeah. But yeah, so anyways, I really do want the rest of it. The very end of it, set me up that I would easily go see the other ones in theaters. I'd be pumped to go watch them.
Ditto.
There it is.
I want more. That's all I can say is I want more. I liked it, and it wasn't too far-fetched for me. And like Vince and Josh, there's a lot of things, the similarities that kind of made this film like what it was, and why I was so easily able to connect it, because of all the other films we've been fed over the years and the worlds we've grown to love. And so I think that this is another one of those universes that I could grow to love even more if more material is added to the pool. So please support it. Please sign a petition online, whatever you can do to get the next one made with good funding.
Convince Disney, who now owns Fox, to give us Alita 2. They have not canceled it, but they have not announced a second one.
Yep, they got to do it. Got to get it done. So yeah, that's it from me. Anything else for anyone else?
Just thank you so much, guys, for interacting with us on our social media. That is pretty much the reason why we're doing this episode. So thank you to, who was it, Tyler?
Yeah, shout out Tyler.
And a few other people who also messaged us on Twitter to tell us that they wanted to hear Alita Battle Angel. And because here we are, and you know me, I was pretty reluctant to watch this movie. I was not about to get into it.
Wait, I want to read Josh's text from when he was going to go watch this movie. He said, "I'm about to start it. Wish me luck." So, and he came back with pretty positive reviews, and he's been hesitant this whole time. So
I have.
This movie works.
So thank you for getting me to watch this movie, because like I said, I like it, and I'll watch the next one. So thank you so much. Let us know on social media what you guys want to listen to, because this was a great suggestion, and I've loved talking about it. So make sure to follow us and check us out on Twitter at Pause Rewind PLA, and then also with Vince over on Instagram at the Pause Rewind Play Podcast. Not just Pause Rewind Play Podcast.
Yep, come over. We're having a lot of fun over there. Come over and join the conversation.
We got to announce the next movie. After such a great sci-fi film, we're going to take a step back 20 years to a film that is being re-released in theaters for 1 week only?
Yep, starting on August 30th, you'll be able to go to the theater and see The Matrix, made in 1999. 20-year-old movie. You can see it on the big screen again. They're
Josh, how old were
re-releasing
you
it.
in 1999?
I was 3 years old.
So our episode will come out a little bit before the re-release happens in theaters, but right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, just barely before.
But
Just a minute.
you can either watch it before you go see it in theaters, or you can listen to us before you go see it in theaters, or you can see it in theaters and then listen to us the week after.
But that means that we won't get to watch it in theaters. I mean, we can, but just not for the episode.
We wouldn't for the episode, no.
Sad. That's fine though, I guess.
But I still might go see it in the theater just for the experience.
Do you want to wait for the week after?
No. So go watch The Matrix and listen to our podcast about it when it's re-released in theaters, and you will not regret it, because this is a movie that I feel defined a generation of sci-fi films that really allowed the world to step out of its comfort zone of westerns and tacky action films and get into The Matrix.
And put us all in black leather and trench coats for the next 10 years.
I haven't left. What are you talking about, man? All right, cool. Well, thanks so much again for tuning into the podcast. We really appreciate your support and your dedication to listening to our voices. So have a good one, guys. See ya.
Most excellent.